Good morning, everyone. Time for another constitutional talk. A couple weeks ago, we were discussing the causes and the effects of our Revolutionary War. And in it, I mentioned the Quartering Act. British soldiers were forced to be quartered by the colonists during the uprising, which was up in Boston when they closed the port. And they brought soldiers down from Nova Scotia. And the big problem they had is they didn't have anywhere to house them. They didn't have enough room. So they passed a Quartering Act ordering that occur. Obviously, this was a big disruption to the colonists. You had some loyalists which would gladly bring them in. But if they did something wrong or witnessed something wrong, then you were in trouble. So it was really a problem for the colonists. It was really an intrusion in their home and, in their way of life even. So after the Constitution was written, it went to state ratifying conventions to decide whether to approve it or not, state by state. Some of the states had a problem because they felt they were giving up natural rights, which I discussed earlier too, in lieu of really nothing. They didn't want to give up those natural rights without some kind of guarantee. So they were asking for a Bill of Rights. And running for the first Congress, James Madison, father of our Constitution, and this is him right here in our middle section of the painting. He ran against James Monroe, who would become our fifth president. So they were running for a congressional seat, and a big promise that Madison made was if elected, he would get a Bill of Rights through the Congress. And this was not an easy task in the first Congress because they were busy trying to set up the government and get everything rolling, because it was the first Congress under the new Constitution. So it was a heavy lift. But he wrote up 19 amendments, 17 went out of the House, 12 came out of the Senate, and they were trying to approve these amendments in the states after the state ratifying Constitution in which they'd approved the Constitution. So almost immediately you had these amendments. And the Third Amendment deals with the Quartering Act in a way, and it states that no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in a time of war or in a manner prescribed by law. Now, this was one of the most important amendments at the time. Now we kind of overlook it. It's kind of poo-pooed like it won't happen here and nothing would happen. But generally in a time of invasion is when these kind of things occur. So no soldier would have a right to live in your house rent-free by an order of another government. Nobody should have to ever be forced to do that. It has happened in history in other places, but our founders thought this was so important that it had to be put in as an amendment. See, when you went through the ratifying conventions, there were all these different complaints. Well, I want this, I want that. There were all this kind of things. And they were saying, well, I'll sign on to this Constitution as long as you guarantee us a Bill of Rights. And that's what Madison was trying to do. So no person during time of peace no soldier during time of peace shall be quartered in a house without the consent of the owner. So you can't be forced to house someone. Nor in a time of war, unless in a manner prescribed by law. So Congress could feasibly order housing if it became necessary, but would have to be prescribed by law. And today we don't even think this is an important amendment, really, not in the scheme of things. But boy, they sure did. They thought it was the most important amendment. Now, as we go through, especially the Bill of Rights, these were the first things that they thought of. Now, we've talked about the Ninth Amendment, we've talked about the First Amendment, and now we're discussing the Third. And all of these different amendments are really what they felt was the most important. They were actually put into the Constitution in 1792, which is a relatively short period of time. Now, I'd like you to think about that as we proceed through, and think about your Bill of Rights and how important they really were. And with that, have a good day, and we'll see you next time on the next Constitutional Talk. Please subscribe to our videos. I'd greatly appreciate it. Have a good day.